But the future will bring actually another kind of wearable, and that is BioDesign. Thank you so much, Tomas, for inviting me to be with you and to share my thoughts on where I believe we're going in wearables, or fashion tech, as some call it. But first, I wanted to share a bit of context for how and why I'm in this position to be able to talk about it. When I was at university studying design at Carnegie Mellon, I was surrounded by innovative thinkers and the creators of great technology and some of the best scientists. That's what was so great about Carnegie Mellon, was that it was this mashup of art and technology, robotics, science, business, computers. And it so happened that the launch of the Mac during that time marked the beginning of my love of technology. Maybe actually it marked the beginning of my interest in wearables. I mean, after all, the Mac, it came with a bag, so you could move around with your personal computer. So, you might think of it as the first wearable personal computer that you could carry around with you. So I was influenced by that. And after I graduated from university, I was hired as a footwear designer for a brand called Saucony. And it was then that I entered the realm of product design for athlete performance. The product I designed had to serve a specific function for sport. And it was a dream for me because I loved sports and I loved design. Now, fast forward to today, and I've done a lot of wearable products, mostly footwear, but also apparel. And I want to talk or walk you down that road a bit. I was fortunate to be pulled into innovation, to the innovation team at Adidas. And I got to do some really interesting things. This is what could be considered my first wearable. That is, it's the first product I designed that included digital technology. It was a running shoe that had 4 pneumatic chambers that could be individually inflated with an onboard pump, allowing a runner to tune their cushioning for their needs. And it had an LCD screen to tell you what pressure was in each chamber. If you set the dial, you could tell how much bar was in each chamber. And this, believe it or not, was a technology first. This was something rather clumsy, I would say. This is probably about 20 years old, but the idea was, let's put a pedometer and integrate it into the heel of a shoe. And it was not connected, but it was a way to track your movement during your workday. The design of the shoe was kind of a tweener. It was sort of Prada sport-like. So here's a product that had some sport characteristic to it, but also some everyday fashion characteristics. So it kind of set the stage, I think, for what's to come, or for what was to come. And, moving forward a little bit, this is what every footwear designer in the industry imagined. The promise of a shoe that would lace itself, and of course, that you could control with an app. Well, in 2017, it was just something that you saw in the movies, but at Puma, we actually decided to make it a reality. And we prototyped Autodisc. So we started it in 2016, but it emerged in 2017. And it was really the first ever automatic lacing shoe. It had an onboard battery that powered a motor, that activated a cable system. You could charge it with an induction charging plate, and you could control it manually or with an app. This was groundbreaking. And we got it out there to some prominent figures. Have a look here.
Cute. I'm ready. Flavor faster.
He said it best. I mean, technology that you can wear is fun. It can be fun. But I say we prototyped the shoe. That means we never actually commercialized it, but it laid the foundation for what came next. So we took what was something that was pretty rudimentary, you know, it was hand-built technology and really advanced it further. Fit Intelligence was what we called it, and it was much better connected. We developed it more like a consumer electronics than a shoe. We actually developed a technology platform which required us to use some new methods of development. We did our first ever, maybe the first ever in the industry beta tester program, where we invited a select group of consumers to give us real-time ongoing feedback. And we used some in-app technology like Instabug and Intercom to really stay connected and get feedback and help us develop it. It was much like the journey of a startup. So that's kind of my journey, or that's been my journey in more of the traditional connected or wearable space. But today and moving forward, I see two tracks in the wearable space. One track is rather expected, consumer electronics for the body. There will be more of this kind of stuff. Sensors on board product that will measure and convert data and shape experiences in different sports and in life. Whether you're measuring performance or recovering from injury or illness, wearables will continue to play a role. We'll do it in footwear and in apparel. You know, we'll even try to mechanize functionality, fit, for example. And there's even a new frontier in the automotive space who is considering, you know, if you consider the automobile as sort of wearable, we'll measure, monitor, and bring new experiences to driving. But the thing that will evolve is the technology inside. The hardware will be easier to incorporate into product, and it will be smarter. This is a company called Nextiles. They have figured out a way to stitch circuit boards, so integration into product can be much more seamless. And the tolerances will be much higher. That means simple movements will measure in far more minute detail. And that will allow us to measure stuff even more accurately and to create an experience that is better tuned to the user. So we're going to see that happening. But the future will bring actually another kind of wearable, and that is BioDesign. BioDesign uses nature as a design tool, as a way to shape products and experiences, using nature to sense and actually to create product, to change product on the fly, customize it, if you will. Actually, this is happening now. At Puma, we did work in this space with the MIT Design Lab. And together we conceptualized ways to put bacteria, microorganisms, to work in sports products. After all, we are a sports brand. So we created some concepts like the deep learning midsole. It responds to the chemistry of your skin and sweat and tells you about your fatigue or readiness level. And carbon eaters was a concept that was stickers that you could apply to your body or to your garments. And it gave you read on air quality to help set up a good run, a day to run or not to run, depending on the air quality. And the breathing shoe, which uses bacteria to create a custom ventilation pattern. Of these three concepts, they were concepts early and we modeled them and defined how they worked. There's one that we took further, and that was the breathing shoe, this one. You know, what's interesting about microorganisms or BioDesign, product that responds to the body, the user actually has a role in the manufacture of the product or the end result, which is kind of cool. You know, there aren't really many products that have that capacity baked in. You know, we really wanted to take it beyond concept, this idea of using microorganisms or using bacteria. And we partnered with the Fraunhofer Institute to develop some of the bacteria that would act as agents for sensing and change in the shoe. And what you're seeing here are some of those microorganisms sort of in action. And we showcased them at, we showcased the breathing shoe at the Milan Design Week in our BioEvolution exhibit, which again focused on this idea of this, the breathing shoe. In 2020, we continued our journey using microorganisms to shape products. Design to Fade was our follow-up exhibit at Milan Design Week. We highlighted two innovative concepts there, but I'm going to show you this one that we called Living Color.
Living Color is a fresh new approach to dyeing textiles.
We want to create beautiful textiles, of course, but we don't want to harm the environment with it. There are a lot of microorganisms in the world, and they can produce beautiful colors.
The bacteria eat something. They metabolize that nutrient into a pigment, and that pigment we use to dye textiles. Puma really understands that a lot of new things are possible, and we really see a future where our clothes are dyed with bacterial pigments.
Again, this is really breaking new ground. I mean, using microorganisms to actually shape product and color product, and definitely plays a role in the space of fashion wearables. You know, and there's benefits to doing things this way too. I mean, that particular process uses no hazardous chemicals, less water, and less energy to produce. So there's a benefit to humanity as well. You know, there are lots of things that biodesign can bring to sports and to life. Take the Olympics, for example. The Olympics are the height of passion in sport. And those of us who are involved in that space, you know, bring innovation to sport in that way, in that stage. We developed a sprint suit that uses the principles of aerodynamics to make sprinters run faster. The brushes that you see on the garment help to control the airflow around the sprinter's body, sort of like the spoiler on a car, and help to propel them forward. You know, it was a hypothesis, but it worked, you know, and we created spaces where we could validate that. We created a virtual environment. Actually, Siemens created a virtual environment that allowed us to test how the functionality of the suit and give us data back and help us to refine it. But we also put it in a wind tunnel to measure what it could do. And the results, again, were positive. So that really validated the hypothesis that we had to create this suit that actually made sprinters faster. And by the way, the gold, silver, and medals in the women's 100-meter were all won in this Puma sprint suit. But performance is not all we wanted to deliver. What about the emotion of sport? We asked ourselves, how can we amplify not only performance, but emotion? And this is where things get really interesting. We did that with a company called The Unseen. And The Unseen uses nature, their own special formula, special sauce, if you will, to create change, to make what is usually invisible visible. And in this case, making speed visible. Now watch this video and you'll see what I mean. So what's super cool here is the idea that this fabric is treated through a biodesign process. And the suit starts out black at the starting gate, and by the end of the race, the suit responds to wind, and in this case, speed, and actually changes the color of the suit. Amazing. So we're still really in the early days of discovery of ways to use nature to bring experiences to humans and to the human body. There are so many materials out there that can be repurposed and put to good use and put back in the environment without harming it, so that we can help to save this and this and this. Thank you.